You are not born knowing what a circle is. No one has ever shown you one. There is no word for it in your mouth. There is no shape like it in the world around you, not in the trees, not in the bones, not in the stars. And yet, one day, thousands of years from now, a human being will look at a slice of tree trunk and see something no one has ever seen before. But that day is not today. Today, you are just trying to survive. It is 3500 BCE. You live in a river valley thick with mud and reeds, somewhere between two rivers that flood every year and leave the soil black and fertile. You do not know it yet, but historians will one day call this land Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers. You call it home. You call it hard. Every single thing you own, you carry on your back, in your arms, balanced on your head: water, grain, firewood, the body of a dead relative wrapped in cloth for burial. All of it moves the same way it has moved since the first humans walked upright, one foot in front of the other, muscle against weight. There is no other way. There has never been another way. You do not resent this. You do not know to resent it. This is simply what a body is for. Picture the village at dawn, smoke curling from clay ovens, children chasing a dog around a well, and you, a potter maybe, or someone who has just become one, because in this era, almost everyone is becoming something new. Farming has changed everything. For the first time in the history of your species, people are not moving from place to place, chasing herds and ripening fruit. They are staying, building, storing, and when people stay in one place long enough, they start to notice things. You notice, for instance, that clay is a stubborn material. You have been shaping bowls by hand for years, pressing coils of wet clay into rough circles, smoothing them with wet fingers, praying to whatever spirits watch over fire that the kiln does not crack your work into shards. It is slow, it is imprecise. Every bowl is slightly lopsided, slightly unique, slightly wrong. And then, one evening, someone in your village, no one remembers who, no one will ever know who, because history does not always keep the names of the people who change it, does something strange. They take a flat stone, or maybe a thick wooden disc, and they set it on top of a peg driven into the ground, and they spin it. You watch clay set on top of that spinning disc smear itself into a perfect ring under someone's hands, not because the hands are more skilled than yours, because the material is moving instead of the hands. This is not yet a wheel, not the way you will one day think of a wheel. This is a potter's wheel, a turntable, a spinning platform, a tool for shaping, not for going anywhere. But something has cracked open in the human mind that can never be closed again. Someone has discovered that round things, spinning on a fixed point, behave differently than everything else in the world. They do not fight friction. They dance with it. For centuries, and this is the part that will surprise you, nobody connects the spinning potter's disc to the idea of moving heavy things across the earth. That leap does not happen for hundreds of years. The people who invent the potter's wheel are not thinking about transportation. They are thinking about bowls. This is one of the strange, humbling truths about invention. It rarely happens because someone sits down and says, "I will now solve the problem of moving heavy objects." It happens sideways. It happens because someone was doing something completely unrelated, and a shape or an idea escaped its original cage. Meanwhile, the actual problem of moving heavy things is being solved the old, brutal way. The way it has always been solved: sledges. Flat wooden platforms dragged across the ground, sometimes over logs laid down as rollers, sometimes over mud made slick with water or fat to reduce friction. You have seen teams of men and oxen straining against ropes, dragging massive stones for temples, tombs, and walls. It works. It is also agony. Every stone moved this way costs blood, sweat, and sometimes lives. Rollers help, a little. Lay down a row of logs, drag the sledge over them, and when a log emerges from the back, run it back around to the front. It is faster than dragging bare wood over dirt, but it is still a team of exhausted bodies wrestling with the true enemy of every ancient civilization: friction. The stubborn, invisible force that resists every attempt to move anything, anywhere, ever. Now, here is where the story turns. Because somewhere, and archaeologists still argue over exactly where, whether it was the grasslands of Eastern Europe, the river valleys of Mesopotamia, or somewhere in between, someone finally makes the leap that no one had made before. They look at a roller log, and they look at a spinning potter's disc. And in their mind, for one single moment, the two ideas touch. What if the roller did not need to be a whole log? What if you could cut the log down, shave away everything except a thin round slice, and somehow fix that slice to a fixed point? The way the potter's disc turns on its peg. What if the wheel did not roll along beneath the load, but underneath it, turning in place, carrying the weight forward while barely touching the ground? This idea should not be simple, and it is not. Because a flat disc of wood is fragile, cut straight across a tree trunk, and the wood's fibers run the wrong way, perpendicular to the direction of the strain. Put real weight on a wheel built like that, and it doesn't roll gracefully into legend. It splits, it cracks along its grain, and fails, exactly when you need it most. This is the part of the story people forget. The wheel does not arrive as a stroke of genius that instantly works. It arrives as a series of failures, each one teaching the next generation of builders something the last one didn't know. Somewhere, unnamed craftsmen begin to understand. A wheel cannot simply be a slice of tree. It has to be built, planks of wood joined together, the grain running in different directions, so the whole structure reinforces itself, instead of splitting along a single weak line. This is the first true wheel humans ever build for movement. And it isn't a smooth, solid disc at all. It's several curved wooden planks fitted edge to edge, shaped into a circle, and often braced from behind with cross pieces. It is heavy, it is crude, it works. Somewhere around 3500 BCE, give or take a few centuries, depending on which archaeological dig you trust, the first wheeled vehicles begin to appear. Not chariots gliding into battle, not the sleek image you might imagine, but slow, lumbering, four-wheeled ox carts, groaning across the landscape of Mesopotamia. Clay tablets from this era, etched with the world's earliest writing, start to include pictographs of sledges with wheels attached. Not decorative, functional. Someone is proud enough of this new machine to write it down. And notice something important. The wheel does not appear alone. It appears with an axle, because a wheel by itself is nothing more than a spinning disc, the same trick the potters already knew. The real invention, the true leap of genius, is the axle. The rigid rod connecting two wheels, letting them turn together, letting the weight of a cart rest not on the ground, but on a rolling system that barely touches the earth at all. The wheel and the axle are not two separate inventions. They are one idea, born together, and neither one means anything without the other. Try for a moment to imagine what it feels like to see this for the first time. You have spent your entire life moving weight the way your parents did, and their parents before them, back through generations no one can count. Every heavy thing has always meant pain, and then one day, a cart rolls past you, not carried, not dragged, but rolling, and the sheer amount of weight one ox can now pull would have taken 10 men straining against ropes only a generation before. This is not just a tool, this is a rewriting of what is possible, a rewriting of how far a person can travel in a day, how much grain a farmer can bring to market, how large a stone a builder can move toward a temple that will still be standing 5,000 years later. The wheel does not just move objects, it moves civilization itself, faster, farther, heavier than the human back was ever built to carry. But here is a twist that most people never learn, the kind of detail that makes you question everything you assumed about how invention spreads. The wheel does not conquer the world evenly. Some of the most advanced civilizations on Earth, the Inca, the Maya, the Aztec, never adopt the wheel for transportation at all, despite understanding the concept. Archaeologists have found small wheeled toys in Mesoamerica, proving these cultures grasped the mechanical principle perfectly well. So why didn't they build wheeled carts? Because the wheel is not actually the hero of this story on its own. The wheel needs a partner, a large domesticated animal strong enough to pull real weight, and terrain flat and firm enough for wheels to roll across without sinking or shattering. Mesoamerica had neither. No horses, no oxen, no domesticated beast of burden large enough to make a heavy cart worth building. And much of the terrain, dense jungle, steep mountains, would have swallowed a wheeled cart whole. Instead, these civilizations relied on human porters and elegant systems of roads built for walking, and it worked. It worked so well that the wheel, for them, was a clever toy and nothing more. This is the part of the story that should humble you. Invention is never just about having a clever idea. It is about the idea meeting a world ready to use it. The wheel was not one invention. It was a convergence of shaped wood, of domesticated oxen, of flat river valleys, of a civilization that had already learned to build roads. Remove any single piece, and the wheel becomes a curiosity instead of a revolution. Back in Mesopotamia, the wheel keeps evolving. The heavy, solid wooden disc, slow, strong, but exhausting to pull, eventually gives way to something lighter. Someone realizes that a wheel does not need to be solid at all. Cut sections out of the disc, leave a rim, a hub, and a few connecting spokes, and you have removed weight without removing strength. This innovation will not fully mature for another 1,000 years or so, but its roots stretch all the way back to these first crude wooden discs bolted beneath an ox cart. And once the wheel becomes lighter, faster, it stops being purely a tool of farmers and merchants. It becomes a weapon. The spoked wheel makes the war chariot possible, a vehicle light enough for 2 horses to pull at a gallop, sturdy enough to carry an archer into battle. Entire empires will rise and fall on the strength of this technology. Armies that master the chariot dominate armies that don't. The Hittites, the Egyptians, the peoples of the ancient Near East will spend centuries racing to build faster, lighter, deadlier wheels. All of it, the war machines, the trade routes stretching across continents, the roads that will one day carry Roman legions to the edges of the known world. All of it traces back to an unnamed craftsman, thousands of years ago, watching wet clay spin smooth under their hands and wondering, for reasons no one will ever fully understand, whether that same spinning motion could carry something heavier than a bowl. So the next time you see a wheel on a car, a bicycle, a shopping cart rattling across a parking lot, understand what you are actually looking at. Not a simple shape, not an obvious idea, a 5,000-year-old solution to one of the oldest problems your species has ever faced: how to move something heavy without breaking your own back. It took potters spinning clay to plant the seed. It took forgotten craftsmen failing again and again to learn that a slice of tree trunk splits under weight, and that only a built, braced, reinforced disc could survive the strain. It took the pairing of wheel and axle to turn a spinning shape into a machine. And it took oxen and flat river valleys and a civilization desperate enough and clever enough to try something no human being had ever tried before. The wheel was never obvious. It only looks that way now because we have never known a world without it.